Let's get back to tariffs. No special treatment for Australia. This is after Donald Trump forged ahead with tariffs on our steel and aluminium. More taxes could be on the cards as well as we try to navigate a changing dynamic with one of our closest allies. Joining me now is former White House Trade Advisor Justin McCarthy. Justin, thanks so much for your time. We're always trying to figure out what's going on behind the scenes here, but now I think it is obvious that we're never going to get this exemption.
Oh, it's great to be with you, first of all. Second of all, I would not say never. President Trump, more than at his core, is very transactional. And I think if you look back to 2018 when this happened, it went a similar way. And a number of countries were able to negotiate exemptions in the process. Now, how long that takes and what the price will be from the United States, I think is still to be seen. But I do think that there are advantages that Australia has that other markets don't in terms of having the U.S. having a trade surplus with Australia. That is a measurement that the White House looks at quite keenly.
I think what people, and including politicians here in Australia, don't realise is that the rules of negotiating on this have changed. It's very different from Trump's first term. He relies and he really likes those personal connections. He's a businessman at the heart of this, and that's how he's treating it. It's been described in various publications as mafia-style tactics. I'm not sure whether that is true, but hey, that is the view of some. So I want to ask you about, how much you think Trump would be looking at our current political situation. He'd know that we're about to go to an election. He'd know that Anthony Albanese is not certain to win a second term. So would he in part be thinking, why would I waste capital on a guy who might lose?
I don't know about that. Summit diplomacy has been very successful in the past. And the lack of that happening between now and the elections in Australia in May is not ideal. I don't think it's, but I don't think that those negotiations, at least at the working level, wouldn't be ripe to begin as soon as the U.S. is ready to engage.
So what happens next, do you think? Anthony Albanese isn't giving up. He's ruled out retaliatory tariffs on any kind of retaliatory moves, which I think is a really good decision at this point, because we've seen how that has just escalated with Canada. And really, we don't have the leverage in Australia, let's be completely honest. So is the door closed or is it slightly ajar, Justin?
I think it's slightly ajar. And one of the things that I believe that the White House is going to be looking for with allies and countries and markets that have had the exemption previously is going to be to mirror U.S. policy on China. I think that will be a key focus. Imports from all of the countries that had exemptions were increasing, and there is a theory in Washington that is either because excess capacity from China in both steel and aluminum is being transshipped through third markets, or is sort of substituting domestic production in these markets, and that production is then being shipped to the United States. So I think that will be high on the list of demands from the U.S. is ensuring that Chinese excess capacity is not making its way to the U.S. market.
Right. What about any truth to the reports that this is kind of linked to what's happening in Ukraine, with the war in Ukraine, and trying to get some kind of ceasefire deal there? Because there was some suggestion that with these tariffs put on, if there is a gap in the market, the US would try and buy more steel and aluminium from Russia.
Yeah, that had not been the case previously. China has had, I think in these two sectors in particular, there was a report in the New York Times not too long ago here about China produced more steel than all of the rest of the world combined, and their domestic consumption went down. So that product has to get somewhere, and I think one of the goals of the Trump administration is going to be to make sure that it does not get into the United States.
Justin, fascinating, and we'll be watching every iteration of this here down under, I can assure you. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.